Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Beyond the Forecast. I'm StormTracker8 Chief Meteorologist Matt DiNardo, but I'm not here alone. I'm with StormTracker8 Meteorologist Madison Ohms. Madison, how are you this morning? Did you get some rest finally?
I did finally get some rest. I think I slept for close to 12 hours yesterday, so we're slowly catching up.
We're getting there, right? I mean, long weekend as we had the snow, the sleet, the somewhat freezing rain, and now we're gearing up for maybe another storm.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's never ending.
No, it's never ending. And we're gonna go in depth in that. But we want to talk about a couple of things. So kind of the rundown of today's show. We're going to talk about ice safety because we had that tragic death of the child in Henrico County. Then we'll talk about the cold weather. And then we'll get into what everybody wants to know. What's happening this weekend?
Sounds like a plan. Let's get into it.
Sounds good. All right, let's get right into it then. I'm going to bring up the weather graphics as we do. I'll bring up the wrong ones. Let's try that one. That's better. So this kind of sets the stage here. As you were mentioning early this morning, there was kind of this ice right across the James River.
Yeah, even over the weekend, this was something I was watching on our cameras. And right now, we've had a lot of sunshine, not just today, but even yesterday. And it was more frozen over than it is now. And we can still see little pockets of ice there, especially on the edges. But as we start to get more into the river, away from the shore, or whatever you want to call it at this point, there's a lot more water that we can see, and that reflection is coming back. And I know we were mentioning that tragic story that we came up with, but it's showing, even though we're at sub-freezing temperatures, it's still not fully frozen and iced over. And we have here on our graphic that different thicknesses of ice can really handle different weights, and we can kind of break that down a little bit more. So even less than 3 inches of ice, not safe to be on top of, even, again, in sub-freezing temperatures.
Yeah, the one thing, when you take away from this graphic here is that our ponds and our rivers are never going to get above 3 inches. In fact, they're probably only going to hit 1.5 inches or so. Even with the frigid weather we have, and we're going to talk about that in a second, this morning, today, next couple of nights, it takes a long time to really go substantial ice. When I was in upstate New York, and once we got to around Christmas time and we were consistently cold, you really developed some incredible ice thickness. I'm sure in Chicago or areas throughout northern Illinois or Wisconsin, there were many ponds that would go, and we'll bring this up full, as much as 8 to 12 or even thicker. I'm sure you remember that.
Yeah, a lot of my friends, wasn't me personally, I know you're a big fisher, a lot of people would go ice fishing, especially in upstate Wisconsin, where you have all the woods, and a lot of friends of mine had cabins up on lakes up there. And that's how they spent most of their winter weekends, was either snowmobiling and going across the ponds and lakes, or even ice fishing out there. But it was because we had such extreme cold.
Right.
The more north you get, we're closer to that Arctic air when it finally comes into the United States. It's a whole different ball game.
It really is. That ice grows super thick, and that's why they have the power augers, to drill down and stuff like that. So while I love to fish, I cannot stand ice fishing. Let me put it out there. I mean, there is nothing to me, and I know all my friends love it, but I could not think of a worse time than sitting on a flat piece of ice with the wind blowing, trying to fish through this little hole. You set up these tip-ups, and you're sitting in a shanty. I'm like, no, my couch is a lot more comfortable in the middle of winter. So, not something I did. But, I mean, I've been on, the ice, playing hockey in the morning or something like that, and they're racing snowmobiles across, and at that weight you're talking 5 to 7 inches. I've seen them drive their pickup trucks and stuff on it to drop their shanties off, and so you're talking full foot or more thickness to do that. But again, here, even with this weather that we've been talking about, and I'll pull up that graphic for you, and you talked about this just a couple of hours ago on the noon, 9 for our overnight low tonight. I mean, 8, 9, 11, and in daytime highs, 20s to near 30. This is not going to create ice thickness like for those types of things.
No, absolutely not. And I think, even though we're seeing these sub-freezing temperatures, one, it's not as cold as we've been in the past.
Right.
So even though our lows, single digits, absolutely frigid, we're still seeing records in the well into the negatives, not just barely reaching that below 0 point. -7, -12. I'm glad we're not in 1940 right now.
Right.
If it feels cold now, just imagine what it was like then.
So the interesting thing about 1940, by the way, and you might remember this, Madison, we were talking about this previous to the storm that came from this weekend, was 1940, and in fact, it was, I think, January 24th and 25th, was the year that set the all-time record snowfall for a single storm in Richmond, and I think, if my memory serves, it was 21.4 inches. So
I do think that's correct, yeah.
Yeah, so that's why after that we had this huge Arctic outbreak, and you saw this crazy -7, -12, -3, and even today I think was -9 or something. So yeah, I mean just unbelievable stuff here. So keep that in mind. Hey, by the way, I want to throw this up here. If you have any questions about ice safety, cold weather preparedness, or the upcoming weekend storm, because we're going to get to that. We're going to look through all the models with you. Scan the QR code. We'll be happy to answer those questions for you. So that's kind of what we're looking at there. All right, let's continue on. Madison, I'm going to throw up the next set because we're going to talk a little bit more about this Arctic air that's kind of in place right now. And if we give you kind of the big picture, you can see we're at 28 right now. At the time of this live is 146. And, of course, many people can play it back. But you see the Arctic air still in Canada. Yeah. There's another front that's going to cross through later today, tonight, early tomorrow morning. See if that pops up. There it is. That's going to reinforce the Arctic air. That's why, a lot of times we get a day or two of Arctic air and it retreats. No, this has got like 2 reinforcements behind it.
Yeah, we saw that system, and that air finally moved in before we even saw our winter storm this weekend, excuse me. And then we saw even more air move in, and now it's just going to keep on happening. We see that front that's been passing over portions of the Midwest throughout the last 6 hours, and you said it is going to be sweeping through again anytime soon, and that's really going to help reinforce the system for us these coming days, and then even when we start to head into this weekend after that air has still been sitting over us.
Yeah, it's still going to be sitting over us, Rob. So when we get into what's going to be coming up soon, that Arctic air is here to stay, even for the upcoming storm. So we'll get to that, but it will be a wintry scenario. Not saying anything else right now. Yeah. All right. Let's just get into it just a touch here, all right? Because everybody wants to know. All right, so you might have heard me talk about this yesterday. You might have heard Madison or Jessica talk about this. There are 2 types of storms. One is called a Miller A. One is called a Miller B. Miller A is one, as you can see, I'll pull this up full screen for you, a little piece of energy will come out of the Rockies, drop down into the Gulf, develop a weather system that will then slide up along the southeast coast and move into New England or maybe off the coast. And that's one type of storm. These are genuine snowstorms or nor'easters for us. Sometimes we can get mix from them. Easy setup, right, Madison?
Yeah.
All right.
It just goes along the coast. It's an easy path to follow and keep track of.
Right. The next one is the Miller B. And again, these are technical discussions and technical terms. We didn't just decide to make these up, by the way. A Miller B system, I'll pull this up full screen, usually is, let's say, an Alberta clipper coming down out of Alberta, Canada, moving across the plains and then into the Ohio Valley. And then it throws its energy from that old storm to a new developing storm off of, let's say, the Jersey coastline or coast of Long Island, and that becomes the snowstorm that creates. 99% of the time, that happens a little bit too far north of us, so we kind of miss the action in a Miller B. Last weekend was a Miller B style scenario because it did form throughout the South, but then it redeveloped off of the Virginia, North Carolina coast. It was a little bit different, and that's why we had the overrunning coming in. There was a lot of things going on there. Yeah.
So the main difference, they just have similar outcomes, not all the time, but oftentimes, and then you're just seeing different trajectories is the biggest part. Is one is going up and along the coast, and one is coming from a little more inland, how we'd be receiving that precipitation.
There you go. Yeah. All right. So let me show you. Let's show you kind of the rough idea of what's happening for the weekend. Then we're going to get into the models. So when we're talking about this weekend, we're going to see a developing system down in the Gulf. That system is, you see the green there. That system is going to move its way across the Gulf and then move into the panhandle of Florida and slowly develop a new area of low pressure. You see the storm that's slowly building there off of the Carolina coastline. You see this is Friday night. You're going to watch the energy transfer, And here we go as we go ahead. Now we're Saturday morning. There's our new storm. There's the snow spreading in here. And the question is, where does it go from there? Does it hug the coast or does it slide out to sea? And this is what we kept saying, and we continue to say, Madison, the track is not yet determined.
Mm-hmm.
So for anyone to put out a snowfall forecast is just irresponsible. It's too early in the game for that. And I already have seen people posting weather models.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw one posted from the Euro saying, oh, here it goes. We're going to get slammed. And when we show you the new Euro, you're going to go, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Because they prematurely showed that. So it's pretty interesting. All right, let's go to the models. Since we're mentioning them, we're going to switch things up here, and we're going to go, there we go. All right, everybody can see it. So we're going to start with everybody's favorite, the GFS model, just because we're just going to go in order, okay? So this is the newest run of the GFS that came in at 12Z. And Madison, you've been looking at it, and when we talked, your immediate concern to me was?
Well, it's kind of changed drastically from what we were even looking at yesterday. And if we want to keep going closer and closer to the time of when we might be seeing this system finally pop up, we see it developing on the coast, bringing in that energy. But we're also starting to see a little bit of blue pop up, and it's really looking to be ramping up quite a bit once we reach this weekend, which is a complete 180 from what the GFS models were showing yesterday.
Exactly right. The GFS was to the east yesterday. Now it is trended west. This is 4 o'clock Saturday afternoon. And if we just kind of slide in here a bit, because we can do that, you can certainly see, I mean, that is a well-developed storm off of the coast of Wilmington, North Carolina at 990 millibars. And you see the deep blues overhead in central Virginia. We're located right there, just to give you an idea. And now we're going to push this ahead, and this stays snow from really Saturday morning at about 10 a.m. And here we are still Sunday morning at 7 a.m. We're still snowing. We're now Sunday at 10 a.m. still snowing. And now we're starting to wind it down between 1 p.m. and 4 p.m. So a good, solid 24 hours of snow with this system.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's even pulling, like you said, those deeper blues, and then even other vibrant, fuchsias and magentas.
Right.
And it's looking like a whole mess.
Look, this, for Team Snow, this is a bona fide massive storm. I mean, that's the case. But again, this is one model, folks. We're not going to show you the projected snowfall amounts from one model, and you're going to see why in just a second. So that was the GFS, the American model. Let's then go to everybody's favorite, the European model, which is now fully in. We're going to do the same thing. I'm going to back this up to the beginning of the time here. So we're going to watch South Texas here into the Gulf. That's our developing system. This is after midnight Thursday, early Friday morning. Now we're looking at Friday morning at about 7 a.m. You see the showers developing here. This is our developing system. You could even see the little circle there in the isobars. There's our new low that's going to pop up, and that becomes the storm that's going to move across. You see this one developing here. There you go. There's your next low. This is Friday evening at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Boom. Now we're developing. There's your low. Now, I'm going to slide in just as tight as I just did with the GFS, just to give you an idea. I'll reposition it in the center of the screen. This is 1 o'clock Saturday morning, so after midnight Friday, looking like, all right, the storm is developing here. Now we're seeing some snow, Cape Hatteras, Wilmington. Notice, number one, it's not as deep as the GFS, not as well-defined yet. Kind of has a jog. The model has a tough time discerning, where the center of the storm is going to be. Looking a little better. Now we've gotten down to 999. This is 4 o'clock Saturday afternoon. But remember, the GFS, Madison, 4 o'clock Saturday afternoon, it was snowing like crazy at this point.
We were covered, yeah.
Yes.
And this is trending a lot more eastward than what the GFS is pulling in. We're still seeing a lot of energy, no doubt.
Yep.
It's still a developed system, but it's not covering South Carolina. It's not covering North Carolina. And it's especially not covering us here in Central Virginia.
So a major difference. And here we are, 1 o'clock Sunday morning, Saturday night, Sunday morning. Notice how the system is pulling away. and bye-bye so long, there's 10 a.m. Sunday. So a significant difference in those two models. And that is the reason why it's irresponsible to show you or even to try to guess how much snow you might get in Midlothian, Fredericksburg, Emporia, because we have two vastly different solutions.
Right.
Now, we're not going to stop there because there's other models. Some of you like to look at the icon, so we're going to pull that up as well. I'm going to go back. There's our low Thursday afternoon dropping out of Texas. I'll just kind of slide this in just a little bit better so we can see it, reposition that. And then Madison, I'm going to go ahead in time. You notice we're getting into, there's your first set of showers.
Yeah, you see a little bit, but even that first low that we just saw going a little back, it's not even as south developing as what our other models were showing. And if we want to keep on going closer and closer to this weekend, there it is still in the Gulf, and then we start to see maybe a little bit more development finally right along the coast there. But then the Carolinas are barely being affected compared to both the Euro and the GFS. And then this keeps on going throughout the weekend.
Just interrupting, this is 7 a.m. Saturday morning.
Saturday
just so you
morning,
know.
perfect.
Okay.
Okay. And so, yeah, Saturday morning at this point, we are starting to see a lot more impacts, especially in the GFS, the most recent runs. The Euro was a little iffy, and then we keep going ahead, and we're just not really seeing too much. It's staying off of the coast and well out of our way.
Right. This is Sunday morning, 7 a.m. I mean, if you noticed, Mads, we didn't see a flake of snow on the icon in this storm at all.
No. And
so
maybe folks in the most western portions of the state, well out of Central Virginia, maybe they get to see a flake.
Yeah,
but
or
not us
extreme
here.
eastern, like beach areas might
Right.
see a flake or two. Right, yeah. But then it's gone.
Yep.
That's kind of that one. So, Team Snow, you're loving the GFS. Team Matty D, which is anti-snow, we're loving the icon right now, okay? I'm just saying, right? And then Euro, you're not happy because it's also Team Anti-Snow.
Yep.
The Canadian, let's just bring that up for a second here. I'm going to back this off. This is Friday at 1 p.m. There's our showers in the Gulf developing. We're going to watch this move across the panhandle of Florida. Same thing. I'm going to slide in just a little tighter so everybody can see. You are at, just so we all know, we're at 7 a.m. on Saturday morning. We have some light snow developing here, pretty much from I-64 south and east, it looks like. That storm is way further south, by the way, south and east. Now, there's some sort of reflection here, so it's not as well organized at this point. It's trying to develop. It finally does develop some sort of closed low, I think closer to Cape Hatteras than this 994, so it's a little bit kind of misleading there. Does produce some pretty good snow, by the way. Let me back this up with 2 frames for you. So this is 1 p.m. Saturday, 4 p.m. Saturday, Saturday at 7 p.m., So Canadian is kind of Team Snow, not Team Massive Snow like the GFS, but certainly has some ideas there.
Yeah, and one thing to point out with models, we're constantly receiving this data, and like you said, it's much too soon to determine the true track of the storm, to determine those numbers. You can always take this data and do the math and find the numbers, but they're not going to be correct, especially this far out and with this much disagreement.
Exactly. And so we'll then go to, I'm going to push this ahead. This is Saturday afternoon at about 2 o'clock. So this is the European ensembles. These are from 6Z because the 12Z is not in yet. But just to kind of give you an idea, number 1 is a miss, 2 is a miss, 3 is a miss. The first front row is entirely a miss. I'll pull this up full screen so everybody can see this, by the way. Media full. There we go. We're in the second row now. Mads, every one of those is a miss. Yep. Maybe a couple of flakes there on panel number 9 and 10. Then we're looking at maybe a couple of flakes there on 11. None of these are showing any massive snows. Maybe 16. If we go ahead, let's go up to the top here and go ahead one more hour, and that puts us, or one more frame, that puts us at Saturday evening at 7 p.m.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, these are all 25 members of the European ensemble. I got maybe 3 that show
just
decent
take a look
snow.
at panel 24. That's pretty
there.
widespread,
Yep.
but that's probably the biggest indicator of significant snow.
So that's something there. Let me see if this one is in. It was coming in. Okay, so that's, let me see if I get to, okay, so here we are. This is the augmented reality. AI FS. So this is at Saturday at 7 p.m. These are the ensembles for that particular model. 1 is a miss, 2 is maybe, 3 is a maybe, 4 is a miss, 5 is Eastern, 6. So there's more in this, and this is 12Z, by the way, that show, I would say this is a roughly 50-50 of a storm hitting us, but nowhere near as, I'll bring us both up here, Mads, I'm sorry.
Good.
Nowhere near as crazy as the GFS.
No, and I mean, this is why we have the ensembles too, because you can really break down how each of the models are being run. What we generally see is kind of that picture as a whole and averaging out all of these individual runs within the model. But then we can take a look at this and see, well, a lot of them still are missing it, even though there's maybe those 1 or 2 that show that we could be impacted.
If we want to go one step further, we'll bring up one more set of models. Sorry, just hit the microphone there if it popped for everybody. We'll bring up we'll go into the AI GFS operational, just so everybody can see this. This is as of 12Z, so this is in now. And we'll just kind of run this fast here. There's our load dropping into North Texas. This is Thursday morning. Now it's moving in. You saw it kind of move right across North Texas. It's going to be dropping into the Gulf here in just a second. Let's move this ahead. There we go. You see the rain developing in the Gulf. I'll reposition this just a little bit better so everybody can see that. There you go. Well, I want the timestamp up there too. Then we get into... I got to roll it back. There we go. There's Friday night at 7 p.m. You see the rain coming. Now you see the new storm developing off the coast of Cape Hatteras, North Carolina. And it's a really powerful storm. But whoa. Let's change this up here. Just so everybody can see. There we go. That's better. Drastically different than the true operational. The artificial intelligence AI has this off the coast. Let's see what happens if it kind of redevelops it closer. Does a little bit closer to us. Notice this is 2 o'clock Saturday afternoon. A lot of snow south, whereas the operational GFS was a lot more aggressive, bringing in steady snow at this point.
Yeah.
And then more of a coastal hugger and out to sea. So the AI GFS would say, Mads, this would be an I-95 and Eastern storm.
Yep.
Yeah. Again, we're looking at things just at face value. There's a lot more stuff that we look at than just what the surface reflection is, folks, just so you all know. But we're just keeping this simple.
And then with different models, too, they all have their own, what we like to call bias, really. So they could try to almost, it's inherently built in to trend one way or another. And having like the AI models as well, I think you were explaining it to me, they kind of remove some of that bias from the face value model that we have.
They do. Yeah, they try to incorporate some more history. They try to remove some of the bias. They try to aid in comparison data, etc. So that's kind of what we're looking at there. You get into, this is the AI Euro, which is now available as well. This is Saturday morning at 7 a.m. Storm is farther off the coast, much like the operational European. Does have some snow, I-64 south. It's a little bit tighter, southeastern Virginia, east of I-95 for sure, but then this continues to move away, and that's Sunday night at 7 p.m. So the takeaway here, Madison, I think, is that we really want to say, look, track's not determined. Madison, I'm hearing we got a question.
Yes.
Any tips on how to drive on icy roads for those of us that have to do it? All right, so your neighborhood streets are super icy. I mean, that's for sure. But once you get onto like a Hull Street, a Broad Street, a Powhite, a Midlothian, 95, 64, they're all great. So you're all good there. Slow and steady, number one, okay? Don't gun it. The lower you go, the lower RPMs, just have the wheels turning. Take a little bit longer time to get out of your block, your city street, whatever the case may be. Prepare to brake earlier in advance. And also, because all of our cars now have anti-lock braking systems, you don't have to pump like in the old cars. A steady press down. If they start to lock, they'll automatically, you'll feel the pulsing, they'll do the job for you. So slow and steady, don't gun it. If you have all-wheel drive, it'll automatically adapt to what wheels are slipping. If you have four-wheel drive, you can pop that in four-wheel drive and go nice and slow as well.
Yeah, and with icy surfaces, you mentioned braking, Matt. It's very different than when we have dry conditions out there. We usually can take 3 to 4 seconds to brake on normal dry conditions and clear roads, but with these conditions, you're going to want to take that about 10, 14, if not more seconds to allow yourself to fully come to a stop. So if you know you have to stop well far out, give yourself that extra time and go slow. I personally, when I was driving, felt like I was just crawling. I mean, I was hugging my wheel and going as slow as I possibly could to make sure that if you did start to skid a little bit, you got to go in with it. You can't try to avoid it. You kind of have to go with the movement of the car, but also try to direct it at the same time. So I know it feels a little scary, but if we give ourselves that extra time, that extra space, slowing down, that's the best way that we can approach all of these icy conditions that we have.
And unfortunately, as we talked about at the beginning with this frigid air in place, we might get a little melting from the sun each day, but as soon as the sun sets, things are going to refreeze again. So the ice in your neighborhoods is not going away anytime soon. Just to keep that there. All right, let's see. So we talked about the snowstorm for Saturday and Sunday. We talked about the different models. Most important, again, you're going to see some stuff out there on Facebook and social media, and we're going to talk about it as well. But we are not going to talk about amounts that you may see until we can definitively talk about the track. And as you saw, right now, let's kind of put this into, there's a track for heavy snow, there's a track for east of 95, and there's a track for nobody gets anything.
Yep.
So if I were to sit here today and we said, this storm is going to give us X to Z, and the track, and I'm basing it on the track that's going to, be up the coast, and it turns out the track moves off the coast, and we get nothing, what does that do for me? Right?
It just shots your credibility right there.
It's about being correct with the storm and calling it in a timely fashion to give you time, enough time to plan. That's really what it's about. All right, Mads, anything further? I think we've kind of spent a lot of time on the three major stories for today.
Yeah, I think, we hit it. It's all about staying safe out there predominantly. That's why we don't send out numbers until we know the track and what we have really a definitive idea of what happening, and then also staying safe on different conditions. I know these aren't stuff that we normally see, especially with sub-freezing temperatures for this long, and even though we're seeing a lot of things ice over, it's still not fully safe for us to be on certain surfaces when we're seeing conditions like this, but it really is just about keeping an eye out and staying as safe as we possibly can.
Madge, you said it all, and I appreciate that. For Madison Holmes, I'm StormTracker8 Chief Meteorologist Matt DiNardo. We hope you all have a wonderful day, and thanks for watching Beyond the Forecast.